Hey, I'm Sue Daley from Sue Daley Designs, and I'm glad to be here today to bring you one of my new classic blocks. So we're starting today with the Utah block. Here's the little packet. Again, in here you get your pattern booklet, which will have all of your instructions to make this particular block. Remember, this is not a quilt pattern, it is just a block pattern. So once you make these blocks, you can sew it up into whatever you want it to be. So that's, we have the booklet, and then we have all of our templates in here for you to use to cut your fabric. And here I have in front of me is the one block that I've partially made actually. I've got it all together except for one corner, but I've made it with linen and lawn fabric, which is very fine and it's beautiful. And it's beautiful to sew by hand as well, or by machine. So it's much finer than your normal cotton, but just gorgeous to work with. So I'm just excited to bring you this block. It's gorgeous. I'll take my needle and thread. So again, I'm working with cotton thread, cotton fabric here. Very different to what I would normally do with my English piecing, different type of thread. So again, we're going to start. So I'm going to go through my reference point on one piece and through my reference point on the other. We're just going to do a little, make sure they're lined up. Do one stitch, leave a tail, come in for a back stitch, and I'm going to wrap 2 times around my needle. Make sure you've left a long enough tail there and pull it, so that means you'll have a little flat knot sitting nice and low on your fabric there. And then I'm just going to sew with my little running stitch, small, nice small even stitches along to my next little spot, so where my pin is, and then I'll do a back stitch. Make sure that you don't gather it up, so I've got a bit of a knot in there. Pull it through. Make sure it's laying nice and flat. You don't want that to all gather up. Do a little back stitch right there. Remove the pin. And then travel along to the next little reference mark in the corner. Make sure you come up right into that little reference mark, because you want all of your corners to meet up nicely. Do a back stitch right there. Take your pin out. And then I'm going to add, see how that's nice and flat? I'm going to add my next one. Okay, just put my needle in there. And your reference point here. Through to the back, pin it, okay, make sure you line your fabrics up, line your seams up there. Okay, so I'm going to come through here. So you only ever sew through 2 pieces of fabric at once. You never sew through a seam like you normally do on a sewing machine. So where my thread comes out of here, I'm going to bring it through here, right at that, where my stitch is here. Bring it all the way through here, in to my reference point on this side. Pull it so that it matches up there, and I'm going to go down in here, but I want to come out into that reference point on the other side here. So make sure you get it, and then we're going to do a back stitch here, and then I'll continue along with my little running stitch. Okay. So that's how I would join those pieces onto my centre. So these little pieces here all the way around until I get the 4 of them on. Then I would finish off my thread and you'd put that piece aside. Next thing, you're going to take these 2 pieces here. So remember, we had 1 and 1 reversed. So we have these 2, and we can mark the back side of that. So we'll find our template. Your marking pencil, And we're going to mark our reference points here. And then we're going to turn it over and mark our reference points on this one piece here as well. So when I have these straight lines here, I will just join my reference points. Just use the edge of your template, mark a line, and again join your dots up. That just gives you something to sew to when you're sewing the pieces together. So then we will put these two together. And so I'm going to pin my reference point here. Make sure it lines up in the back. And I'll just break my thread here and we can start again. Because I don't have scissors today. Never mind. Happens to the best of us. So we're going to come through our reference point. We're going to do our little back stitch. Leave a tail. Come in for your back stitch. 2 wraps. That little knot will lay nice and flat down on your work there. Now we've got our lines here, so we can just follow that line so we keep it nice and straight. And I always sit just outside the line, and I always check the back to make sure that I'm sewing on the line at the back, or not on the line, but just outside the line. So we have our line here, and I'm just sewing just one thread of fabric on the outside of that line, and just checking to make sure that's happening on the back side as well. And you do exactly what I did before, is you just do 5 or 6 little running stitches and a back stitch, and continue along that straight line, checking back and front to make sure you're on the line. Come up to the end here, I do a back stitch at the end, and then I will finish that off there. So then I end up with my little piece that looks like that. So I'll press that out. Okay, so then what will happen is that you'll make your 4 of these. So we've got 4 pieces sewn onto the center, and then we make 4 of these, and then we will then sew those into this section here. I'll take these pins out. So this will sit into that section there. So you'd sew from here into here and into here, remembering that when you come to these seams that have got to these parts where there's seams, you will only sew, you'll sew to that point, and then you have to pass your thread through the seam and then start on the other side. So you can see this one, I actually sewed this one up on the sewing machine. So I often will do these a little bit of machine piecing, a little bit of hand piecing. So, you know, I can sew all my straight seams. If you don't like doing curve piecing on the sewing machine, you can do all your straight piecing on your machine, and then you can sit quietly and do your hand piecing. So it's a best of both worlds, really. So I'll just bring this one back over here so you can see. So I added those on, we've added these in, so we're sewing from here to here, and you can sew them around in one thread too. So start here and coming in here and sew them all around. And then of course the same with this one, I can sew this piece in around, or you can sew this piece first. So you can sew that around and then piece these in, or you can piece this in first and make that corner, and then piece it in one piece. So that's it from the Utah block. I hope you've learned something from there, but this is a fabulous block, and it's beautiful sewn with the lawn as well.